So how do we reduce risk through good supply practice? Well, we have these different risk management strategies, and we talked about these in our last video. Supplier selection, making sure we pick the right supplier. Supplier monitoring, making sure they're performing as we expect them to, and if they need help, we help them. Supplier segmentation, how do we group our suppliers? Contract language, making sure it's easily understood, and it is understood by the other party, our supplier. Hedging, where are we hedging our bets? Are we expecting something to go wrong? And how are we going to deal with that if it goes wrong? Are we going to put 80% of our orders through our main supplier and then 20% through the secondary supplier? So hedging would be kind of doing that. Near sourcing. So you might want to insource, near source, or outsource. But if you're taking it from outsource and you're bringing it into near sourcing, that could mean that you're taking it from an overseas outsourcing company to a domestic market, or you might be bringing that into your company, that function that you don't have into your company. So now it's on site instead of somewhere else. And then we have postponement. So we might be postponing an order, or we're reducing it and having a delivery spread out maybe more. Instead of 200 or 1,000 you need next Friday, maybe they can deliver 200 for the next Friday and then 200 after that until the order is completely filled. Or you might say, well, we needed this, but we can go an extra month or two before having to order this, so let's put this off. All these different ways. So, risk reduction strategies. Dual or multi-sourcing. We always want to have a backup for our source of supply. Because if that one supplier fails, for whatever reason, goes out of business, has a fire, or is destroyed by a natural disaster, or whatever the case may be, we need a backup. So having dual or multi-sourcing is a great idea. Geographical diversification. So we don't want all our suppliers in one location. For example, we don't want all our suppliers to be in California, let's say, where there's wildfires and earthquakes. We don't want that. We would probably want to have, let's say, a supplier in California, and then maybe a supplier in Minnesota. Well, they're separated, geographically separated. Because if there was a disaster that struck in California, well, we still have the backup in Minnesota. This could be a good thing for, let's say, a data center. All these things you should consider. Inventory pooling. So pooling your safety stock with other firms, including rivals, lets you balance the cost and risk mitigation. So sometimes a supplier says you need to have a minimum order quantity of, let's say, 100. But your company only needs 10. You don't want to spend the money to get 100 because you only need 10. Well, there might be a purchasing co-op, or you can go in with a rival and say, I only need 10. Do you know anybody who needs 90? So we can get this minimum order quantity of 100. And you can work together. And that's how you can mitigate risks. And you also know that your supplier is using the same part. So you're not having to spend what it would cost for 100 units when you only need 10. So you're saving and you're reducing that risk of spending that money and having it sit on the shelf by 90% there. All right, part standardization. So this is very common, is you have a standard part for a various manufacturing processes. For example, if you have a car, you know you need to change your car's oil every so often. You need to change the filters. You need to change the windshield wipers. Well, if you go to Walmart and you look at their oil filters, there's quite a few. Let's say there's, I don't know, let's say 50. But think of how many different cars are out there. Probably hundreds, right? So there's standard oil filters. You just need to know which one your car needs. And that one could be for your car and 10 other cars because of this part standardization. So you don't need to have a specialized oil filter for just your car. that only works for your type of car, that works out because you're able to buy one product and it can be suited for many other options. So whenever that part is needed, you have multiple places you could go for that item. So these are different ways to reduce risk and how to deal with it when risk happens. And now we need to figure out a plan. So when something happens, how do we evaluate what happened, and then how do we continue when that happened? So let's looking at this planning phase in the next video.